We are recording. Your flashlight's on.
Oh, find everybody.
So, Cemetery, Evergreen Cemetery Committee called to order today at 5:33 p.m. Roll call. Carolyn Harris?
Present.
All right. Marisol?
Present.
Linda Halston?
Present.
Lisa?
Present.
All right, and Jody Giacomino?
I'm here.
And Matthew Gertie, City Liaison, I'm here. We have no call to the public that we have, so we'll move on. First agenda is approval of the action agenda, approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of the Evergreen Cemetery meeting held on May 5th, 2022. Did everybody get that email? I don't know when that was because I don't send it out, but does somebody want to give a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. I'll second.
Who's second? Karen. Oh, okay, Karen. Okay. All right, we'll move to old business first. Discussion on, well, that's, the chair is all the way up in the business, so I guess we'll go through. Discussion on the progress of the water tanks installation and tree planting. Was that Linda or Lisa that put that in?
I asked just to kind of get an update of where we are in terms of progress.
Okay. Everything has been purchased that we needed. There was a problem with the tanks way back in, I don't know, March, April. I had ordered the tanks from Home Depot and got a receipt and everything and waiting for delivery, and they never showed up. So I called them and said, hey, looking into it, and they were like, oh, that order got canceled. I'm like, why? Oh, it doesn't say. Okay. So since we still have the receipt and everything, so I ended up ordering from Tractor Supply. We had to get one from Douglas and one from Nogales. So those are all purchased. Those are at our garage. The trees were all purchased. I think it was 9 of the cypress trees. I think some of those have been planted. I'm not 100%. Because I've been seeing a few of them, you know, disappearing out
Hopefully
of
they're
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think anybody else would want to pick those up. So, our Parks Department has bought all those except for the tanks. I ordered those online and everything. So, I think, did Josh get with you on placement on all the trees?
I think I had talked to Logan and I told him, I didn't know they were cypress because I'd asked, and that wasn't,
Okay.
you know, I don't remember if it was clarified. I said if they're not, he didn't know, and I said if they're not, plant them on the back road, but if they are, you know. And I have a quick question for you. Do we have I gotta think of the correct word, is it an auger? Something that we can drill out the stumps that are there? Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or not? Or an auger that we can drill next to a stump, you know, to plant another tree.
Okay. Yeah, what we're trying to do with all of our trees, because we've had, you know, some that don't make it and everything, and we've talked with the tree farm over by Douglas, and they said you want a bowl. You don't want just a straight down. You want a bowl, so when, you know, when we're doing drip system or however, that it's your softer is in that bowl, and then it kind of stays in that bowl and goes to the bottom.
The reason I say an auger, to try to dig in that cemetery, obviously, you know, so
Yeah,
that could,
I have.
that could start it. I mean, you could do an auger side by side,
Yeah.
and that would start the initial bowl, and then you could go back
Yeah.
filling like that.
We don't have an actual like auger for the stumps. I don't know if what's his name that did the tree trimming over there.
Oldfield.
Thank you.
Oldfield, yeah, thank you. I'm not sure if he has something like that because he does a lot of tree trimming. So
we're right in the middle of the monsoon, maybe got a little time left in the
Yeah.
monsoon, so it would be super helpful if we could get
Yeah.
tanks placed quickly, get the trees in while we have the benefit of nature.
Free walks.
So, yeah.
I mean, the water's not gonna go in the tanks themselves like that though.
No, but I'm saying,
Okay.
you know, because once the monsoon
stay-
ends.
to stay
you're gonna
with
wanna
the
have-
watering.
Right.
Okay,
Because,
yeah.
I mean, if you can get them planted now, and again, I don't know what your timeline is, and I'd love to hear kind of what we're looking at for timelines. But if you can get them planted now, the ground is softer because of the monsoons,
Yeah.
easier to, to work with, and you've got wetter soil, and so that's better for the trees, and they're
Yeah.
more likely to
Agreed.
survive.
Yes.
And then when the monsoons, taper off, then the tanks will be in place and you can supplement the water.
Yeah.
So what are you thinking about in terms of a timeline?
I'm thinking by the end of August, we should have those in. I think there's like 5 left out of 9.
And that's
4 or
the
5.
tanks and the trees? both?
The tanks, yeah, we might be able to get the tanks in place by that point.
Yeah, because I mean, that would be sad if we got them planted and then we didn't have a water source after the monsoon stopped.
Yeah, I mean, we still have some time with the monsoons. I mean, they'll go into
Not much,
September.
it'll go by quick.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It'll go
but
by
I mean, if we can
quick.
get the trees in by the end of, before the end of August, I mean, we should have half of September almost for monsoon.
I mean, that would be great from my own personal perspective, just because,
I agree.
if we can get all of those sort of things done and then maybe.
And cypress trees don't have a real deep root,
Right.
so you can't really put them next to another stump.
Well,
Somebody needs to look into it because.
yeah.
Yeah.
That might be
So let
something.
me-
Unless we can rip this, and the stump, we should be able to rip the stump out
Maybe
with
especially
a
right now.
backhoe. Not only because it's soft, but those stumps have been dead
A
a
long time.
while.
Okay.
And again, if they are the cypress, those go on the main road. And then we had talked about putting pines or other alepas and stuff on the, the
On the
laterals. Yeah, the
Okay.
laterals, that type of thing, yeah.
So, I mean, if we can kind of get all of that done and things are looking good, maybe something in Christmas to bring the grand tours over for, so they can see what we've done with the
Yeah.
monies. And then maybe we can get the next cycle for the grant to
Yeah.
do the next phase or whatever we all decide is, I sort of postulated what phase
Yeah.
2 would be, but that was just to write the grant.
Yeah.
We can certainly.
And phase 1, and I will say this myself, for us, took very long time, way
Yeah.
longer than it should have. So
Right, so we need to think about that in terms
that's
of
on
future.
us.
So I think we should update. I don't think you have any idea what we're talking about, do you?
No, I kind of.
Yeah, I know, I forgot. And Carolyn has a little bit of an idea, kind of sort of, because I've talked to her. So the 2 new people are kind of, I just thought of that
Okay.
right now.
So we elected to pursue a grant.
So did you write the grant?
I did.
Fantastic, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm reticent to write more grants until we get,
Yes.
things in, because you just don't do that. You don't write for money and get it and then not produce what you said you're gonna do. So, I feel confident that we could win the next round and rounds after that. They're very good about approving the grants. And we basically have elected to place water tanks that have gravity-fed systems and buy trees. So we're looking at more about foundation and beautification initially. And then we've talked about establishing a website that would then have things that you could buy that are Evergreen Cemetery logo stamped, because you see that in a lot of these really cool places, and doing virtual tours as well, so that people could, from all over the globe, be able to virtually tour the Evergreen Cemetery, as well as purchase, T-shirts.
And trees, and
CDs,
trees.
and they could donate for trees, right? They could fund a tree.
And we wanted to do things such as, the library has Friends of the Library. Perhaps we could get people to be friends of the cemetery or whatever, or even have people buy benches or in memory of someone and place those throughout the cemetery, or, buy a tree in memory of someone, and then we could, do it that way, and maybe even have a citywide cleanup.
With volunteers.
Because you'd be surprised the size of that cemetery until you start trying to pick up dead flowers and clean it up. It's a big job.
And a lot of these bigger cemeteries, you probably have seen them, they have events, they have tours, they do a lot of things, and all of the funds that are raised go right back into the care of the cemetery and then improvement, and so that's kind of the direction we're thinking. So right now, we're just working on this first phase of the grant. I sort of, yeah, right. I sort of wrote, oh, this is what we would do with phase two, and this, but we have to really come through on phase one first. So that's kind of a nutshell.
Quick question, is our cemetery designated historical landmark?
Sure.
So already good, so we're already in, I assumed that, but just.
Which gives us that much better because you start doing the online stuff, people search for that, you know, they search for historical.
And in some things, we include memory gardens, like in our, some of our events or memorials. Memory gardens included.
But any fresh ideas? You're more than welcome. I love that kind of stuff.
Throw it out.
Yeah, phase 25.
So-
Public restrooms with
Carol
water.
stays.
Yes, people can get water to water their plant, you know, take care of the plot. Just
So yeah,
start that.
we will, on public works side, I'll be pushing to get, you know, tanks, trees in by the end of August.
Thank you.
I think that's doable.
Can I add something to her comment? That was kind of a conversation that we had too. So if people know that every Sunday or every other Sunday we go to water, whatever the schedule is set up, let people know who have live plants there. You can come get this water and water your plots.
This
You
is
know,
at this time's water.
Because it's, yeah,
We
because
can't
it's,
just leave it open.
yeah, because we're gonna have to unspigot it because of the vandalism and such, but,
Yeah, we'll have the
Illegals will be
security keys that go on those.
right. But that will give the public, okay, if you'd like to come and, because there's a pine tree that was just planted a couple years ago, and boy howdy, it's getting big, it's over in the
Yeah.
new section.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's kind of an idea also.
Yeah. So, any other comments for agenda item 2? And one thing, I know it's odd for people that don't, if we can try and talk into the mic, that helps. I know it's not something that everybody's used to, I'm not either, but it helps if with recording and everything. Agenda item 2, which we won't be able to do, announcement of official welcome of FMI representative. So this is like the third or fourth time we've tried to do this, so.
Is this a new person?
What is it?
No, it's
Report.
Oh,
Robert,
Freeport
yeah,
McMoran,
sorry,
okay,
Freeport
I was
McMoran. It was
I don't know what that is.
Robert Quintanar. But he gets a notice for the invites just like you guys, so.
Okay.
Anyways,
He's got a pretty tight schedule though.
yeah,
So that's-
Joni, do you know him?
Uh-huh. But I've got, you know, I've had dealings, very positive dealings with him. And again, he kind of has to have a bigger time frame, you know, because he's a very, very busy guy.
What is his name?
Robert Quintanar, he's the, I don't want to say lead, he's the head honcho for Freeport here at this facility.
For our next meeting, can you maybe give it?
I'll see, yeah,
I'd
and
love to
when
see
is it?
you.
Yeah, let me know when it is and I'll send him an email too, yeah.
next one, here, how about I do this?
November
Do this.
Okay.
Sorry,
Unless we like I said, unless we schedule one.
it's on the back, the next one. All right, so let's, if everybody's good, we'll go on to new business, and that is discussion and possible recommendation to select a new chair for the committee since Grace Wiggins has resigned.
May I nominate someone?
Yes?
I would like to nominate Carolyn Harris.
Thank you for that nomination. I am honored to be nominated by such a staunch leader of our community. However, at this time, I am not taking leadership positions. I want to see how the next year goes. I don't want to overextend myself.
Sure, understand.
And that's regarding future, I will discuss that in future new business.
Okay.
But thank you anyways.
You're welcome.
Lisa?
Anybody else?
I will.
I'd like
I'd
to
like to
nominate
nominate-
Lisa Hall.
All right, I will.
All in
I
favor?
second, yeah.
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you, Lisa.
So,
And I have a
who knows?
personal request.
Okay.
Can we remove matter from my name? I no longer go by that.
I think you said that last time.
That's
So
okay.
I
No
apologize.
worries, no
Yes,
worries.
I will make sure that happens. So, just for clarification, who nominated
I did
officially?
Linda Halstead
Okay,
with no A.
And you want a second?
at the end? Or-
Yes.
In the
At
name
the
and the
end.
last name.
Okay, we'll look at, okay, and then, Marisol, second, right? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll be, when you can't make meetings, or you call me, I'll be your left hand, so your second gal.
When we men.
Since we're kind of talking about this, I think what would be a good thing to do, and we do, talking about this in other committees, is having a vice chair as
That's a
well.
great idea.
So we can talk about that for future agenda items. Okay, so is anything else that we want to talk about with new business number 1? All right, we'll go on to number 2. Discussion on cemetery audio tour.
Okay, I first must apologize, I did not bring my binder. I have a nice organizational binder for this committee, so good thing I'm not the chair. But I figured I wasn't gonna turn around and go back and come, it's better to be on time, because it's not huge, I'm not gonna talk, it's not huge, the information that I'm gonna give you. So, for those of you that don't know, I just always, my idea when I thought about getting on the cemetery committee is, I've grown to love the cemetery. I was a history major in college, and I remember being a kid, and when you would pull up to national parks, sometimes, it would say, turn your radio to AM whatever for information, and then audio tours of places. More, I haven't done that outside so much, but in museums where you walk around and you got the headphones on and you can just learn so much. So I thought that would be so cool to have that in our cemetery. And first I thought, with KBRP, we have our own radio station, and we could, what would that be like to do it ourselves, use our own historians. But that's kind of a huge project, and then I start thinking, why reinvent the wheel? And I heard some advertisement that Kevin Costner has made an app for history. He loves history, and whenever he's driving around the country, he just turns his app on, and it's an app that will tell you stories about the places that you're at. So it goes with GPS. And I thought, oh, so cool. So I started playing around with that yesterday and today, just looking at apps. And so far, here it's called Kevin Costner's app won't open due to connectivity issues, but that could be our storm weather. There's a neat one, and then several of them they're just not here. They're in other parts of the country. But this one called Autio, with ATIO, they did have southeastern Arizona, and there were like 14 different options, but nothing from Bisbee. So this is a niche. Yes, there were two from Tombstone, Benson, Sierra Vista had a few, Apache Wars. So I thought, oh, but cool, let's get on this, or what. So that was my next step. So that's where I'm at. I need to do more research, find out how they do that. Who are these people that, just find out the next step. And to somebody come
What is that
here.
called?
It's Autio, ATIO.
I think that's brilliant.
And I went ahead and just downloaded it. I thought in my mind it was like, oh, I'll cancel all these apps within a month, whatever, I'm just exploring. So I'm still at exploratory phase. And then Joni had mentioned an idea, and I kind of like that too, is do our own YouTube.
And the thing about YouTube is you could either do period costume and have what do they call it, a guide or whatever, go through and talk about the cemetery, or just, a guide, a friend to the cemetery, go through.
I thought Boyd or Anderson out there talking, or period, some old crusty Western.
We can still do both, actually, because
Yes.
one's a visual, and some people really get into that, and then just the audio and like when you're.
And I have all the Bisbee Bell costumes for the women.
Oh,
Ah,
nice.
good.
I advantage.
I have an idea as well. In like major trails, they have those kiosk kind of
Yes.
small things. But we could possibly have some of those that have speakers in them. You hit a button and it tells you in history, says over at such and
In this
such
section
marker.
is the Serbian
Yeah.
section,
Right.
right? This is-
Obviously, that's a
I
great
think that's
idea as
ideal.
well.
For people who just show up, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
And
so
that
that's,
could correlate with the map.
yeah.
That's
Because
just,
the library is doing book walks that have those, and they have books that they're going to be putting in some of our parks. But I know they have, speakers that are, can be rained on or whatnot, but are waterproof and stuff, so.
So if they're doing that, is there some way that we can dovetail onto that for that piece, since that's already being developed in the community?
Yeah, because we already have those, actually, the pieces got delivered and everything, we're just waiting for installation of those.
It'd be nice to sit down and look at a full map of the cemetery. Years ago, when I had my kids
Oh, I have
doing
so
that.
many books and maps.
Right,
on
but it
my
could
phone
section it.
On that cemetery.
Well, what I'm looking at is sectioning it, so then you have, this is the one recorder, you walk up to section A. In section A, blah, 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 and you can listen to it and scan all, while it's going, and then walk on and look at the different graves and such. So then it would be,
But don't
To
you have
start
to
out-
carry something?
pardon me?
What are you listening?
They're talking about boxes. There's
you walk up
boxes,
to the
yeah,
box,
and you
that's
just
what
touch the box.
Right.
And that could be like a starter, and then later on, you could then cut
Yeah.
that section into more, and then re-record, and then, maybe cut that section in half. So it's not such a vast.
Yeah, you could have
Phase
your
it.
main, kiosk,
Mhm.
and then at the actual plots, have the, like she's saying, the boxes, and you can walk to, hit it, and it tells you what that why we have that person on
On
there.
that person is on
Yeah.
there. Who's our Chamber of Commerce
There's no.
Do we have one?
We have no chamber of commerce. We do have a
Visitors Bureau?
we have a visitor center.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, we just don't have chamber of commerce.
Yes, correct.
But yeah, and the
Where is
visitor
that?
center, it's in the mine tour now. isn't
Yes,
it?
mine tour, yep. If you go kind of heading to the back door of the mine tour, what is her? I shouldn't know
I
her
know,
name,
I
she
can't
always
remember.
gives me,
I wrote down her name last time.
Yeah.
Heather. Heather is her name.
Okay,
She's very approachable.
okay, great.
The books you're talking about, that the library's making, so they're like little tour booklets. You say, a walking tour of Old Bisbee, and you get the booklet and walk around, is that what you?
No, they're kind of the kiosks that you see at nature walks that have the glass on top.
Oh, okay.
So you unlock it and you can, and what they're doing is taking books apart and putting different pages, and you walk through the park and you read the book as you go to the different
Okay, then you
stations.
put the book back.
No, it stays in there.
It's under
Okay.
glass.
Yeah, the
Okay.
library unlocks it to change out the books and stuff throughout the year,
Okay.
so.
Is
But
this-
with something like this, what we want, it wouldn't change unless we needed to add somebody or whatever.
And to begin with, it would probably be wise, that's not the right word, but it would probably be best to focus on really famous
Sure.
first,
Yeah.
really famous graves, and then you can generalize the section, because we do have the baby section, and we have, the military section
Yeah.
and such like that, but we have some quite famous individuals in that
Yeah.
cemetery, so.
Great idea. That's good.
So should we put that on the next
I think we
agenda for
should.
further discussion? And
Absolutely.
I'll just give you an update of, I'm just gonna keep investigating.
Yeah, that's great.
How do we get our stories into some format? I like the virtual just because it's less infrastructure.
Sure.
I think that's more sustainable in the long run.
Yeah,
Kiosks,
especially,
just think of the elements over years
Right.
and
Yeah.
10 years, 20 years from now.
and especially like if people are coming right now, they don't wanna get out.
And the thing with the
They have
audio,
Cars.
yeah, you can still drive the cemetery, and you can still do
That's good.
your app like.
So that's good for disabled people.
Yeah.
And then mostly I was just like, I love the radio idea because what if you're economically, you don't have a smartphone and you're not, you don't go that way. But statistically, I don't know how many that. You may just reach way more people with this.
That's a great idea, and especially to start with. It seems like it's manageable, doable.
And driveways.
Yeah.
Any other comments on, discussion on audio tour?
No, as long as we can have it on the next agenda, that's
Yeah.
that's great.
I'll write that down to add to the next agenda.
Thank you.
Discussion on Project Wildlife.
That's me again. What I would have handed out now are brochures for Project Wildlife. So let me just explain to you a little bit what Project Wildlife Bisbee is. It's affiliated with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife. So this is a federal program. And I started thinking about it. I was like, we've been doing this over the years. Those are those signs that we have on all our gardens. And so it's like, oh, this is the new one for the 2020s. It's different from the 90s when I was dealing with it. I was like, oh, this isn't new. So the idea is to promote gardening and landscape planning that supports the native wildlife. Just educating educating people about what our native plants are, why it's important to plant native plants, and the goal, though, the reason they're doing that I got involved is they want to certify the city of Bisbee. So if you get enough people in it, it's like a equation that this Fish and Wildlife has worked out. If you get enough points on this scale, we'll certify you as a city that promotes wildlife habitat.
How do you get points on this?
So the points on the scale is, so there's a checklist, and that was the other handout I would have given you. It's pretty simple. There's like 5 items: cover, water, food, and then sustainable practices. And they're like, do you have 2 of these, 2 of these, 3 of these, 1 of these? So, and mostly, I got kind of, not conned into it, but a friend persuaded me to do this, to be the school liaison, because I already worked with the schools. And I just thought in my mind, Greenway and Bisbee High School, they're full of wildlife already. Like it's kind of a no-brainer that we already qualify. It's just somebody filling out the checklist and paying the $20 to the federal application, and then you get designated that habitat. And they wanted schools because in the equation, schools are worth more points because it's a public space. Right. So there's certain points for individual gardens. So overall, this committee. It's just local Bisbee people want to not this fall, but next fall have this be the Bisbee Bloomers Garden Tour. And but really the goal is to get the city certified. And so I said, I'm on the cemetery committee, and you guys all know how much wildlife is at the cemetery. There's great birding, deers walking through all the time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so the fact that we're a historic also would be a kind of a cool.
Yes, and there's also, so there's more points because it's sacred grounds. So also churches are more points.
Go ahead.
So in New York, and I can't remember the cemetery, but my old roommate used to be the records person that sat in the basement looking at dead people. But they did something similar to this, and they planted natural foliage and then started their own business of selling honey. They set up hives in the back of their cemetery, and they have their own, what was it, holy honey, or something silly. But they make money that helps sustain the care and keep of their sacred honey, something like that, yeah. And which is kind of cool, and it goes along with that whole wildlife thing too. Because now you're providing food, because you planted all your native, and it was native plants that you planted in it.
So is the cemetery fenced all the way around? Spiky fence?
Well,
So deers jump that somewhere because
Yeah, there are, I think,
somewhere
one
they
or
get
two
through, they
places,
have to run across.
there's 1 or 2 places where the fence has been taken out and there's just like a shorter chain link fence. So that hopefully they'll safely cross.
I kind of like that, yeah, if we could leave that.
But they don't really look for that sometimes, so we tend to have to go out there every once in a while and pull them off.
They'll be stuck in there, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it's not very
What's
well.
on the Liberty section, is that fenced on the mountain, that's not fenced there, right? 'Cause I think
Venison
that's-
sale for the cemetery. You're making a joke.
Yeah, I know it's about, yeah, if you're going down.
Jerky,
They don't know how to read the signs.
I don't think it's fenced that.
We'll make a
Yeah.
sign for them.
And then with the Project Wildlife, the city is working with Jane
Yes,
for the Upper Vista, possibly to turn that Upper Vista into the Project Wildlife as well.
yeah, and so we're kind of waiting for this garden tour to be done, and that'll be a big push. And I'm on the board of that project, and I
Yeah.
just told them I would talk to you guys. And if it's okay with you, I'll go ahead and start that, and I'll do the check. It's just a checklist and email them the application.
Looks great.
Good idea.
Okay, thank you.
Now we can just get on the mower grass.
Okay, now,
Now,
Can we put the wildlife on for the next agenda too? Just-
Yes.
yeah, I can give you follow-up on that, keep you guys posted.
All right, any other comments on, Project Wildlife? All right, member comments. So, if somebody wants to talk about the grass or whatever, we can have a comment.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, because my dad was chewing my ear, same thing, when I cut my grass. So I was told, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, when I asked before, that because of monsoon, if we cut it in a week, it's gonna,
It'll be back.
yeah, so, yeah, and you can.
That's 100% correct, because it takes so long to cut. It takes a full crew, which is about eight inmates, probably a good 2 weeks at least to get that whole thing done.
Do they do it with weed eaters?
Yes. We do have, where we have good flat lanes, we can use the mowers, the push mowers, but for the most part, it's all weed eat. So it takes a very long time. Every once in a while, we can have the state fire land crew come and do it, and they can do it even better because they do that all year long. So, but it doesn't happen all the time. But they have done the lower part by the cannon. I seen that today, which I was like, well, I guess, I mean, it's getting close. I was like, it's gonna be kind of a waste of time, but whatever, that's fine.
Well, I think the longer, the higher it gets, the thicker it gets, and it's gotta be harder.
Yeah, yes, it is. But we are getting close, so it shouldn't be, we should be getting close to doing that. I don't like it myself either, but it's like, it's just so much time, and we're trying to have, because of the fires, there's a lot of people now that are trying to clean up their yards all over town now, so we're having so now our guys, regular crew, that drive the garbage trucks and get down and go pick up yard debris, don't have enough time to do all of it, so we're having DOC crews go out and do all that, so.
My concern though too is snakes. That's the issue,
Yeah.
especially in the
Yeah,
cemetery
yeah.
because of the rocks and the heat and that I worry about. And
Yeah,
when I drove in there last
understand.
night, I was like, ooh, I feel like I'm in Kansas, oh, the rolling grain, I mean, because it's pretty tall. But again, budget-wise, because they'll pull it, our DOC money, and that was what I thought.
They'll pull it?
No.
If we don't use
Our money,
it?
our DOC money, so if we have them come in and we spend our money to mow, right, you see what I'm
Oh,
saying?
they
bro?
charge us.
Oops, then we have to do it again shortly thereafter, that's why it's kind of like we get out.
So are you guys thinking maybe end of August, beginning of September?
Possibly. If it feels like it's starting to slow down, then I'll have them start. I mean, it takes them a while, so I'll have them start. It seems like, we're getting further, and we'll go by the weather forecast, National Weather Station, and see what's, how, if we feel like it's coming to an end or whatnot.
We talked about the Friends of the Friends of the Cemetery. I mean, maybe that's something on the horizon, having people donate lawnmowers and you put a shed or even, so that
Yeah.
on, like we say, clean up
Hours.
Sunday, or
Hours
even,
with their lawn.
yeah, right, or hey, let's have a clean up Sunday.
Well, that's what I.
Yeah, and then just, let's have everybody show up and see, we could still do that.
We could have a city.
Yeah, between now and the big
Weekend,
vote.
Saturday
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Sunday,
Yeah. So maybe we should do
That
that.
had been discussed.
Yeah,
before.
do that. We could even have a special meeting between, in another couple of weeks, and then maybe put that out to the public and say, who would be willing to come on a Saturday or Sunday and decide what day. Bring your
Show up.
yeah. And do we have any electrical access there? People don't have gas? No, there's no electric.
So they have to.
I have a generator, huh?
They have to be gas.
Well, they would have to, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking, yeah. But I have a generator that still works. I mean, I can throw it back in my truck and then drive so people can, pull their extension.
Plug in.
But it would be nice to kind of cut some of it down, in the meantime, and then do the pretty.
But they have done the part where the cannon is, from the cannon to the ice factory, so I think that's what it's called, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other member comments?
So question, right now, we currently do not have a Friends of the Cemetery.
Not yet.
So we need to.
I do have a couple, kind of a couple, but one it's related. We talked about this in the past and mentioned it, kind of kicked it around about doing the holiday things. And I think maybe we should think about this starting like in October, like Halloween-ish, and do a lantern offer like on Fridays and Saturdays, nights, and people could dress up period costumes and do tours.
Like a lantern.
Yeah, the lantern
It
tour.
would probably have to be next year because this year it's not mowed
Yeah,
Okay.
by
October.
October.
yet.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so,
Oh, yeah, it'll be,
so I mean,
it'll
something
be
to think
mowed by
about.
October.
What I'd like to do, and I think you were here on the conversation too, is if we wouldn't be able to do it this year because it's a big endeavor, is next year, do the main roads all the way up to, you come in the main gate, go all the way to the back, and then down the other side, and decorate Christmas, and then charge 2 cans of
well,
food
you know, we
for
do have
$3.
wreaths across America.
Yes.
Right, but this,
That, and so
yeah.
we could add to that.
Right, and then tell
How about
people,
that?
decorate your own plots if you
Yeah,
like with
sense.
lights and provide, and that where we might be able to talk to Freeport, like for a generator on. You do it on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday and start doing it like at Thanksgiving and then run it all the way through the first of the year. And then just on those few nights, because they did this similar, not in a cemetery, but in a park that they could close in Minnesota, in Mankato, and I think it's Kiwanis. And theirs is all donation, and they do food or cash, and then they donate all that to the poor. And what we could do if we did it, we could donate our food to the firemen for their food drive. And then the money that we generate could go into the cemetery fund. And it would be really cool, and I have a lot of like blow-up stuff. I mean, I have a lot of Christmas decorations that I could donate also. And then maybe we could talk to people that know, about somebody's brother I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that does electric for Hollywood, yeah. Just to figure out what kind of a wiring we would need, because it's a pretty good stretch, I mean, from road to road. But I think it would be pretty cool, and then going back to the audios, you could do a YouTube that people could tune into with just music. And, or even, say, okay, tune into this, and then as they drive, they play it in their car,
We do
and-
that at some of the light shows for Christmas in
Exactly.
Phoenix.
So,
Nice church.
kind of like Winter Haven,
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
but in the cemetery. So.
Another thing you could do as far as the lights, and this is what we're doing for the Bisbee's Christmas on the Vista, is solar lights, solar Christmas lights. We're using those on our trees that are, because we're lining both sides of the Vista, lower Vista from Condon to Ruby with lining all the trees with lights.
Right. That would be an option. I wonder if that would blow up.
So October, Halloween is on a Monday, but that gives us 28 and 29, Friday and Saturday. Do you want to just start out, can we put it on as an agenda? Well, we're not going to have another meeting until November.
We could
so-
have,
Yeah, it's special.
we could schedule another meeting.
Okay,
One,
so we
yeah.
need to do that like really soon.
Like move up our November 3rd meeting?
Or you could just schedule a
Another
special
Special
meeting.
meeting.
because
Yeah,
then
special
you can
meeting
vote.
for-
Special meeting can
September.
vote, yeah.
Is that,
September is, I mean, unless it's in the middle of September, is pretty hard for me, because I'm gonna be gone, and then I have a conference in the last part of September.
Could Logan fill in for you if we did it?
Yes.
Could you talk to Logan and see if he's not gonna be too busy, because then Logan could be
Yeah. He'll be gone the last part with me to a conference.
right, but the first
but
part,
The
yeah.
first part, yeah, and middle part,
Right.
yeah.
So that would help. And then we could talk about that, because I kind of think it'd be cool to get, if you guys wanted it, the lantern thing.
Yeah.
And then charge tours,
absolutely.
Yeah. And we'd have to decide, okay, what dead people do we want to talk about? Yeah.
Or if we didn't want to do it, if you're too overwhelmed, maybe somebody approach Bisbee Ghost Tours. But, I mean, there's different companies, right? I don't know, maybe you had one bad experience. But I'm not sure. So, I mean, that's just like they're already set up for it and they may already have the history.
But the idea was to have the money go back into the coffers of the.
Right, so then you would ask them to donate or give them a little, it's labor. Are you gonna dress up and carry the lantern and tell the scary stories? Cool, then we were set. But, and future though, like maybe to make it sustainable, that could be a Bisbee Ghost Tour does a Halloween thing. And then the other idea I'm just throwing out there is buy a bunch of marigolds and sell them for Day of the Dead, because Day of the Dead is November 1st and 2nd, there's already also people that will be visiting the cemetery.
Thank you for saying that, because Ms. Barco is planning on doing the Day of the Dead, big celebration again, and the middle school always comes over, so there is gonna be something going on. So one, we need to make sure that the grass is pretty nice, so the kids don't get lost, and then, yeah.
Do we need to, okay, so Ms. Barco's got something already planned with the school districts, and I don't know that we can talk about it during this meeting. Do we need to have it
Yeah.
on another agenda so that we can talk about the
Right,
October
the month of October.
Halloween thing?
Yes.
That would be a good
Okay,
idea.
so, all right,
So,
how do we get a special meeting set for
go ahead
September?
and email Lorena and/or Nina. Nina's the one that's actually looks at the schedule to see where's availability, so maybe include both of them, and then they can figure it out.
Is it permissible at this juncture to ask about people's availability in September? Because I don't want to ask for a date that's not.
Yeah, exactly,
Right,
we
yeah,
plan on,
coming
we can't
back.
go. My
Yeah.
dad's gone
End of
early
September.
September.
And he won't, well, he's not gonna be here anyway, so.
That first week of September, I'm at a conference in Prescott too, so.
So, yeah, after the 15th or even the week of the 19th is better for me.
Is that a good week for you?
It may not be, I don't think we have any PD or anything.
On the 26th? Yeah, what that little dot is. Yeah. So could we have a meeting the week of the 19th, a special September meeting?
September 19th?
You're-
September the 19th?
Well, I'm just asking the week of the 19th. If you guys can give, that's a date I'll request it.
That's
Scooby. So
The only day I couldn't do it is Thursday, because it's parent-teacher conference.
Okay, so the 22nd is out, so that would leave 19, 20, 21, or, well, we don't want to, nobody wants to do it.
The only day I'm working that week is the 21st.
So the 21st is the day that you're available.
Otherwise, Logan can be here.
Okay. Jody, you're available the 21st?
Sure. Yeah, just like I said, the
And
22nd.
so, are you
Yes.
21st? Okay.
Yes.
And I'll have to see if it's
It won't be
good with, well, she'll have to see if it's good with the schedule.
So what time would you
Okay,
be?
so I have a question. Is it,
5:30.
5:30 and question mark to confirm.
Yes.
so Linda is not gonna be able to come down on the 21st? Does anybody have an objection to us doing like part virtual?
We can't do part virtual.
We can't-
What you
No.
could do is you could do
Can I do a call?
You could do a call,
I could call.
because they do calls with the city council.
Okay.
Can she
Yeah,
Because I
call?
know Steve and the mayor said no, like, virtual.
No, but I'm saying all of us but Linda.
Yeah, I mean, even with you three, it's still a quorum.
Right, but I just want
Right.
to be able to.
She's, but
Yeah.
even if she's on the
Put me on
phone, she can
speaker.
still.
Yeah.
You got a speaker, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't throw in my 2 cents very often.
All right, so I'll ask for the 21st if that's okay with it. And then we just need to make sure that we reach out for Linda.
Any
Tell
other
her.
member comments? The only comment I have is we are one member vacant, so
Oh,
maybe,
recruit?
yeah, if somebody wants to.
I know something.
Linda, I talked to Linda.
Oh, Eddie,
Oh, Abby too, yeah.
Eddie
So-
had said she wanted to.
Okay.
She-
So there's
She
two
wants to
positions.
She's a worker.
You want to reach
Yeah.
out to her? Ask her if she wants to.
Yeah, I'll go.
Yeah.
She's
Or
an
others,
Alpine.
if you know
She
somebody
was an
else.
Alpine.
Oh, really?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Future items for discussion, I have the cemetery audio tour and the Project Wildlife. Is there anything else for November 3rd?
Yeah, for the November 3rd, can we just put down discussion of the next grant cycle? It's never too early to start thinking about that, and then I can just draft it and have it ready. And I know it's a ways off, but there could be other grants. Have you all run into grants?
So can I ask you a quick question?
Yes.
So the water tank should probably already be in by then, right?
Yeah.
So could you put tentatively on there, water fill schedule? Because if they're in, it gives me the possibility of running water, just to see how often it would need filled. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? And then we could set a schedule up so that you guys would know, oh crap, we gotta fill the water. You know, so it's in you guys' working schedule, does that make sense?
Yeah. And then, I forget what else I was gonna say. Never mind. Yeah.
I thought.
One thing, one thing that we can, we'll add it to the grant cycle discussion that we have next time.
Yes, now I'm on.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Oh, I had a question from way back early in the meeting. Which place, had no delivery, it was canceled, and they never called you?
Home Depot.
Home Depot, okay, I'm just making note, no other reason.
Yeah.
Maybe to, okay, and then, it's already a historical landmark. And then, on the agenda, you could add, evaluation of Halloween event. You know, I forgot the meeting term for that, debrief, that's the word I love. Halloween debrief.
Halloween,
And
thank you, as a
Yes.
joke on my
And,
frog, yeah.
Dia de los Muertos and Dia de los Santos.
It's gonna be
All
fun.
right, if,
Super fun.
that's it, do I have a
Motion.
motion, thank you, to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Okay,
Nice,
do I have a second? Okay,
All in
we have a
favor?
second? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned.
I think you have more people with more.
Thank you.
So, the reason, I want to wait till I turn this off.